Events Project for American Government, I researched global water rights. At the beginning of the year, I did not have a clue as to what water rights were. I simply thought that they were laws and regulations according to bodies of water, such as the one I'm in right now. However, after lots of tedious research, I soon learned that there are many more factors involved with water rights. If you were to look up the definition of water rights, it would come up as a group of rights designed to protect the use and enjoyment of water that travels in streams, rivers, lakes, and ponds, gathers on the surface of the earth, as well as underground. In order to deepen my understanding of this vast topic, I had to complete 5 tedious research assignments on specific topics. The topics of these projects were global water rights in Africa, water rights in New Mexico, water rights in California, and water rights in Australia. To begin my research, I focused broadly on the topic of global water rights. And I also researched the present standards and regulations that must be met regarding water and sanitation. These regulations must be met for all individuals despite where you live and what your current condition is. So essentially, everyone must have access to clean water. One of the regulations states that the water source has to be within 1,000 meters of the home. However, these standards are not always met in all areas of the world. For example, one source states that the average distance that women in both Africa and Asia have to walk to collect water is 6 kilometers. This is almost 6 times the distance set up originally. This is a prime example of how the present standards are not being enforced strongly enough. So this makes receiving viable water across the world a daily struggle. Additionally, in less developed areas such as parts of Africa, the standards for sanitation have not been met and do not live up to the quality necessary. Essentially, this is just a poor health hazard that puts many lives at risk to many diseases that can be spread from feces. This information led me to research more and deeply understand water rights specifically in Africa, which is my next topic. This image shows women in Africa carrying water back to their homes from the nearest possible water source. Second research assignment, I decided to investigate the specific water rights in Africa. Initially, I had been looking for an article with information regarding the lack of water and restrictive laws that are currently in play. However, the article that I selected focused mainly on how new water rights, laws, and regulations were having harsh negative effects on farmers and pastoralists. While this may have been not what I was looking for, per se, it allowed me to gain a deeper understanding on how critical agriculture and the maintenance of agriculture are to our common world. Additionally, I learned that the main use of water is for agriculture and keeping our crops viable and usable. Soon, these laws are tightening, and the accessibility of water to farmers will decrease. These tighter laws will have an impact on farmers in these areas, and this will cause them to not be able to provide for their families. And when they aren't producing these crops that people depend on, they will either not have a food source or have to look elsewhere for their food. Additionally, my research showed this picture shows how, in America, we take for granted our vast water supply, as opposed to less developed parts of the world, such as Africa, that really savor and need every last bit of water that they can get. Next, I focused deeper into water rights in the United States specifically. I focused on water rights in New Mexico. Areas such as Arizona, Texas, and New Mexico have a particularly mild and continental climate. They have low relative humidities and hot temperatures. So water in these areas is extremely important to maintain and keep a surplus supply of. The population in New Mexico has been growing at a rapid rate. So there has been a greater demand and a greater necessity for water in this area. In order to supply this water, people who work for the state, as well as people who individually just have a license, have been taking water from other individuals directly from their land. This water comes from groundwater, from if the stream is located on the property, or any other ways. This process is similar to that of eminent domain, where the government takes a person's property and then attempts to justly compensate that individual. However, in these cases, the individual is not being justly compensated. One main way that people are able to commit this act is because of the simple procedure required to receive a permit for domestic water rights. This then allows them to go and take the water that they need without any hassle at all. I strongly agree with the point of view of this article because it is unfair for people to legally take other people's property and get away with it. Additionally, this is a huge issue in New Mexico because there has been a decrease in the available water as a result of many droughts over this past year. And the hot temperature has taken a negative effect as well on the water supply. From the video that I watched, I also learned how park rangers suggested putting up fencing to protect private streams. This has to do with water rights as well as private property. If you want to get involved, it is suggested that you can write letters to the Governor of New Mexico, Suzanne Martinez, as well as local state rangers. They can provide you with more information. As you can see, Mayor of New Mexico, Susana Martinez, has very strong views towards the topic of water rights in her own state of New Mexico. In her executive budget recommendation, she addresses the fact that there must be higher personnel in the administration regarding water rights in order to give her citizens the protection that they deserve. To continue my overarching topic of global water rights and still stay specific to the United States, I looked deeper into water rights in California. Aside from simply the water rights, there are also many limitations set for water usage. Now in California, two important bills are awaiting the vote from legislation. These bills deal with water usage, monitoring, and conservation. Although these bills may sound nice on the outside, they have a total negative effect on the U.S. citizens living in California. Because, as Mr. Nielsen says, many Californians have poured their life savings into small plots of land to follow their dreams of becoming farmers. Yet with these new limitations, they are in trouble because they can no longer effectively maintain their agriculture, similar to those in Africa, with the lack of water that they are provided. Additionally, my research stated that the quality of water provided for those in the city was far worse than the quality of water provided to farmers and provided to support endangered fish and other species. This shows unequal distribution of the water supply. However, this shows a disagreement between my two articles. And that shows that the sources could have been biased by the authors to support their opinions. However, I feel that both are very important issues in California as well as in the United States. Also in California, recently there have been many droughts and this is affecting their water supply, as now there is way less water than what is needed to provide for the many citizens that live and operate in California. These political cartoons show the lack of water available in the state of California. They also show the unfair distribution of water between endangered species and farmers, as opposed to cities. Lastly, this cartoon shows how strict water laws are in California because of the recent droughts and the lack of water supply available to citizens. Lastly, I zoomed out of my scope and decided to research water rights in Australia. Australia is a beautiful oceanian country that you would assume water rights are low and fairly lenient in because of their vast supply of water. However, despite their surplus, water rights have been specifically tight and there's been tension amongst the companies based in Australia as well as the local citizens and government officials. Many companies are based in Australia. These companies have been profiting by selling the water that is in such great surplus there to make a great profit. However, there is much tension between those companies and the individuals who own the land there, as they've been battling over who has control of what lands, streams, ponds, lakes, and groundwater that they can use. Additionally, farmers there are worried that their precious resources may not be safe from those big companies who are coming and trying to take them. Federations and organizations such as the National Farmers Federation cannot supply the necessary support to continue to ensure the protection of their water that is necessary to maintain their agriculture. So they're looking for support to help build their foundation and grow as a community with the people there. Additionally, I found that my research shows that there's also been calculations by specific people in Australia as to what areas have the most cloud coverage. Those areas with cloud coverage that shows specific cumulonimbus clouds have been selling land spots for hire because those are the areas with more projected rainfall. This rainfall will then be taken by those companies and used to be cleaned and sanitized and then shipped out as either bottled water or used as water that you shower in and drink from. I gained a new perspective because there was a recent drought in Australia, and this really gave them a dose of what other places such as California and New Mexico are dealing with when they have these droughts. While it was a minor drought, they still gained a new perspective, and citizens there wrote in their articles that it was very eye-opening for them.
This cartoon shows how in Australia, clouds are very valuable because they produce water that can then be sold to these companies, as I talked about earlier.
The recent droughts over the past years in areas like California especially, as well as New Mexico, have really shaped my view of water rights, because they've shown me that water rights has such a big impact in areas with mass populations, and it can really change a person's life for better or for worse, and it really does influence all aspects of life because it affects what you eat, what you drink, what you're going to do. And so all of the recent events that have happened this past year, they really do give me a new perspective. There is no surefire resolution to water rights, as it's such a broad category. However, there are many things that we can do. We can write letters to people involved. We can donate to local churches, such as Church of the Nativity. These places have organizations that set up areas where you can donate money to build wells in areas such as Nigeria or other places where clean water and sanitation are only a dream for some people. Since it's non-resolution, water rights is hard to really deal with, but we can deal with it by conserving the water that we do have and also managing and maintaining the water that is in our local community. As you can see, water rights is a major issue, not only in the US, but in areas worldwide. It's such a broad topic as well that it ranges from selling clouds to farmers concerned about the land that they have to water their corn and wheat and other products. Water rights is an aspect of our daily lives because whether you are walking out in a stream or whether you're taking a shower or washing your hands or brushing your teeth, you're using water, and that water has to come from somewhere. And that water that we get comes from places that are affected by these water rights. So as you can see, water rights affects everyone.